Thanks for joining us, everyone. I see a lot of people know that you have to wear a hat in our sessions. So Mike was all ready to go on that, and Thomas is looking for his wolf hat. So I'm here representing the Boston Red Sox. So that was a good day in the stands. But we're so glad that Mike Terzo's able to join us. Mike, you've been through the wars on starting up a program and a whole company there. And we're looking forward to what you can tell us about your journey and some of the things that you're doing recently here. I guess you did a demo of your product virtually, which is awesome given how big it is. And the fact that you couldn't turn people out to do it. I had the advantage of seeing it in your facility there out in El Dorado Hills. But tell us what you've been doing and the most recent stuff you're on top of, Mike.
Well, besides not having to really dress up for meetings and growing my quarantine beard, we've actually been pretty busy. Is my audio pretty good here?
Yep.
All right, cool. And before I start, I do want to make a quick plug for the California Mobility Center. That's still rolling along. We're looking at a launch later this fall. Has been pushed back, but anybody that has any connections to the mobility space that wants to learn more, and also Thomas on the battery repurposing, you should connect them up with the Mobility Center, because that's one of the key features is second life on battery. So we are still moving forward with the Mobility Center. So it's been delayed a little bit, but it's still cruising. So I'm pretty excited. We had a board meeting last week. Yeah, so for us and for it's interesting, the timing on sort of everything that's going on. I think my experience over the last couple of months is going to be a little different, because I do know that a lot of small businesses are just getting hammered right now, and it's pretty tough times. For us, though, like Gary mentioned, we just finished the demonstration of we have 2 grants with the Energy Commission, and this was the bigger one, the funding of the development of our HydroPulse smart pump, and we did the demonstration, which is really the culmination of, for me, 6 years, almost maybe a little over 6 years of work. So it was weird doing that virtually, because we really wanted to have a pretty big event here to sort of, finish off that grant and kick off the fun stuff, which is deploying the technology and getting it out there to actually, make a big difference. So that was weird. And we set up the demonstration for the Energy Commission, which was pretty tough, because we were trying to show off a 200-ton press, our equipment on equipment all over the place. So we had webcam set up on the fluke meter to record the energy usage. You start realizing all of these technical issues that you have, just to recreate what you can do in person. So it was pretty fascinating, but we did finish that off, and that was for us a huge deal. And I actually think doing it virtually was really successful, and it actually gives us some good ideas on how to we're actually going to do another couple webinars recreating that same sort of event, as far as it was a great interaction of us showing off the technology and letting people see it and really understand what we're doing. So for us, it was pretty cool.
But to give people just a reminder, you're developing systems that are much more efficient, hydraulic systems, by combining multiple devices into one, and also cutting down the total power requirements in driving devices as you combine things. So you've really been making pretty big progress in getting better energy efficiency out of big industrial equipment that's pretty much an overlooked market. So tell us a little bit about just sort of the high level overview on what you've been able to accomplish.
Yeah. So we now have documented our energy savings to the Energy Commission, and we were over 80%. We were right around 81% more energy
Wow.
efficient. And that's proven now, and it's something that I knew we could accomplish a long time ago, but to have that done and actually accomplish that. So what we do is we do really two main things. We just do power on demand. So for our industry, everything's always, all the industrial equipment's always running all the time. All we do is really change that to power on demand. So we only use energy when you're actually doing something. And with hydraulics, it's a really complicated black art of complex valves and all kinds of stuff. And we removed all of that and made it a very simple system. But to do that, we had to incorporate, some really, really cutting edge technology, primarily permanent magnet motors and the electronics to control those. Same thing that's in a Tesla to control the wheel drives. But we had you can't just you can't buy that off the shelf. You can't really find people with the expertise. They're very rare. So we had to put together that team. That's something that the funding from the Energy Commission actually was. I think we were a great poster child for the Energy Commission and the program, the EPIC program that we were part of, because we had got our initial investment. We had done our first generation of development. And that's when I really realized, like, oh my goodness, we have some serious technical hurdles to get over, because a lot of times you don't know what those hurdles are until you get into the development. And when you get into the development and you run into roadblocks, especially being a hard tech company, convincing investors to continuing to fund your endeavor is challenging no matter what. When you're a hard tech company, it's even harder. So we had learned that we had some serious technical hurdles to get over, and we had to really bring in some talented, specialized skill sets. And that's what the Energy Commission let us do. And that's sort of how I proposed it to the state is, we've done this work. We've realized we do have potential to have huge energy savings, but there's no way we're going to convince investors to put more money in when we can't give a definitive date or how much it's going to cost. That's when I think that kind of public funding comes in and removes those obstacles that are in place for companies like mine. So the Energy Commission let us buy some specialized equipment that, one, investors don't like to invest in capital assets, and two, bring in really skilled engineers. Some of them we had to train up and get over those hurdles. And it's taken us, 3 years under the grant, but over 6-7 years total. So that's been, last week was weird because we had, just a couple of us here, and to enjoy that. And it was still really exciting though. So.
Well, yeah, no, congratulations to everything you've managed to achieve there. But talking about where you are right now, your operations have obviously been affected. Have you had any luck with the paycheck protection or any of the other support that supposedly is being offered?
Yeah, so immediately I applied for the SBA disaster one directly through the SBA. And then as soon as they did the stimulus one, we did the PPP. We were able to secure the PPP. I think we got that earlier this week, and that was really big for us. So we can keep everybody rolling, and we can bridge this gap of moving into production. For us, it was critical because we were literally transitioning from the end of a grant, still needing investment money, and into revenue, and we weren't there into profitability yet. So for us, that PPP came at, the perfect time, because it was, I don't know, 3 weeks ago was not a fun time. So that was a really rough time for as a small business owner, I think the personal aspect is the hardest thing to do. So that was not fun, but now we're on the other side as far as the financing and the PPP. Actually, the stimulus is perfect for what we needed, and it actually gave our investors a lot of comfort too. So they're still investing. So it was like a double benefit in that it literally did exactly what it was supposed to do, which is keep my employees on the payroll, keep our benefits, keep everything, and also give our investors comfort. So that was a huge deal.
Yeah, Brian has noted there's a thing called the economic injury disaster loan that you might apply for too, and we can talk to you about that.
We already applied for that one. That one is, it's a little bit of a disaster. It's a disaster loan because we applied for it literally within an hour of California declaring. And it was amazing. Actually, this was 3 weeks ago. We got a loan officer immediately the next day. And by that, within 4 days, they said, okay, this is good. You'll be funded on Monday. And this was right when everything was, I mean, it was the worst week of the last couple decades of my life. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. They are moving. They were working over the weekend, and then it just literally ground to a halt. And now it's been 3 weeks of absolute confusion and continual handover from one SBA loan officer to another and re-asking the same questions. And I don't know what's going on with the SBA disaster side. We're in the works, but it's been oversubscribed by, I think, 50 billion. So, who knows?
Well, we're hoping that there's going to be a round two if Washington can get it together. But what's your next step? I mean, you had people lined up that wanted to buy equipment. You were getting good feedback from potential partners to sell it with their brand name on. Is that's still all engaged, and that's still part of the go forward for you?
Yeah, all the big customers, actually, we haven't even seen a blip other than maybe we've shipped some units to engineers' home addresses for them to evaluate. But the big customers, the automotive side, the large OEMs, I think they all see that no matter what, this will pass, and people are still going to have to have equipment, and we don't know what the time frame is, 6 months, a year, but working with the big OEMs, that's out 2 years anyways, 3 years. So that hasn't changed at all. We're still actually, if anything, I would say we've had an increase in interest, because I think all these engineers that were really busy all day long cranking, now they're at home. And we actually just started a marketing campaign specifically because everybody is at home and they're actually digesting digital advertising. Like before, they weren't even paying attention because they're just going to work, and they don't, that's just noise in the background. We're seeing really, really good traction with LinkedIn and with different stuff. And so we're about to restart a pretty good marketing campaign because we've seen a lot of inbounds coming from that. So for us, everything has not really changed too much on that front. Our distribution is definitely slowed, I wouldn't say ground to a halt, but the distributors, they live and breathe by going out to customers, engaging with new customers. They can't do that. So that's been a challenge for that side. But that was always our slower growth, multi-year, growing the distribution side of it. So for us, it's actually, we're looking pretty good. And, I'm feeling for a lot of the small businesses that can't open. Because we're manufacturing for the trucking and the automotive industry, we are considered essential, but we still have minimal, we're still trying to be as careful as possible. It's tough when you're doing R&D and you're doing hardware and you got tools and different stuff. So
Yeah, well, it's great that you found a silver lining in this by, your target customers are sitting at home and actually paying more attention to what you're sending them. So that's terrific. Let me ask Leanna, because we sort of share parentage of Terzo. You're both in the clean tech community and you're in the ag tech community. And Leanna, I know you're familiar with Terzo, but I think it's a really great story. What comments do you have on it?
I'm really pleased to hear that he's been successful in obtaining a triple P loan. We've heard a lot of horror stories about the process, particularly some of the bigger banks. I'm curious who you went through.
We use Five Star Bank.
Oh, great. They've had a really good reputation through this, I understand. So
And
that's really great.
They've supported us. They supported us from day one. So I can't actually speak enough about them because when we got the grants and we realized we needed a SBA loan to just service the retention that the state does, we got rejected by every single bank in town except Five Star. So that says something for what they invest in, and that's taking a risk on small companies like us. But it's paid off because we just actually brought our PCB line here back, and this is state-of-the-art PCB manufacturing that we're going to be here in about 2 weeks. We're going to fire up and be manufacturing all of our PCBs right here in El Dorado Hills. So I think that's what, the optimism that I want to promote out there for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I should let you know then that Emily Heyman with the Business Journal contacted us. She's actually looking for people who have applied for the triple P loan, and she's looking to know about their experience. So if you'd like, I can connect you to her. I don't know if she's written an article or in the process of writing an article, but she would be interested in speaking with you.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, great. I'll connect you.
Yeah, and you've had other articles in the Business Journal. Mark Anderson, I know, has been active talking to you too. So that's a great follow-up. So let's see, I think it's Laura that said, ask Mike about the economic boom he's forecasting. So that's great. When's the economic boom going to start, Mike?
Well, this is my opinion for sure, but what I'm seeing and what I'm talking to all these other CEOs and all these other people, and primarily in our industry, but that's a pretty big chunk that we bleed into because it's trucking and it's heavy equipment and it's castings and manufacturing and steelworking. It's interesting because it had started over the last year because of the absolute chaos that is the tariffs had caused with supply chains. So it actually had been talked about a lot, I think, as far as we'd seen a lot of people bringing stuff back in limited fashion to North America. But now I think this has really exposed the supply chain. I think not only weaknesses, but really almost not incompetence, but nobody really knows what their supply chain is. And that is something that I think is just unacceptable. We have to be able to not be in this situation again. And it's not just on pharmaceuticals or toilet paper. It's on, for our PCBs. So we have a PCB here. I don't know where all these little resistors come from, other than almost all of them come from China. So I do know that everybody is now looking at, I actually just got off a Zoom meeting with some other CEOs earlier today. One company is going to be putting in pharmaceutical manufacturing within 60 days in Sacramento. That's what's happening right now with CEOs and owners. And they're looking at it like, okay, we're going to own our supply chain because this is eye-opening. And I look at that as like, if we even bring back a fraction of what has been outsourced overseas, that's going to be a significant boom throughout, the whole part of it. Because I am personally we're going to be making our PCBs here. We already were, but we're actually going to source the PCBs from our, and we fell into the trap as well because we work with domestic PCB, actually fab manufacturers and overseas, and you get wooed by the overseas pricing. Well, a lot of good that does us when you can't even get the product and you have all politicians all arguing and everything going on, and we're just sitting here. It's like, how do we make the stuff that we make every day? And I think that's everybody I've talked to is looking at how do they reinvigorate the supply chain, and that to me spells manufacturing boom. And I think that's it's gonna start next year. It's actually gonna start earlier because I just literally got off that call with another CEO that is putting in, hopefully in a couple weeks, he hopefully gets the funding. He's gonna be putting in a $30 million pharmaceutical manufacturing that he had looked at, he was gonna do in India. And he's like, I have a duty now to make sure that we don't get into the same situation. So and I was blown away. I see, I've worked with China. I have a lot of good suppliers in China, a lot of good relationships, but I've seen the reality of a lot of stuff as well. But I had no idea that much of our antibiotic supply comes from China. That's, to me, is a failure of a lot of different things. And this is the opportunity to sort of, I think these things are, on the optimistic side, they're great because they we're good at just sort of falling asleep, and this jolts us awake, and that I think will lead to a boom. I think we're going to see a manufacturing boom that we haven't seen in I don't want to go out there too far, but I think it's going to be substantial to what we saw post World War II, and that's coming from everything I'm hearing in our industry. It's a big deal, and I think
you got me sold. And with that, I was hoping you could summarize the to-dos that you added for people, because I know that's a great transition.
Yeah. So that's right there. We're
Yeah.
planning for 2021. We are I'm expecting there, and I don't know if it'll be a huge boom, a small, whatever, but it will be a substantial manufacturing growth in the U.S. I don't see how it cannot happen with just everything that's going on, everybody I've talked to. So we're planning on it, and that will be a different landscape because there is this general push towards domestic manufacturing, and that's going to be differences in your supply chain. So we're trying to get ahead of that already and understand that and be a part of that. Because we're also going to promote that we're manufacturing PCBs right here in El Dorado Hills. So I'm extremely optimistic about that. And then I think the other thing that came out of this whole situation for us is we do a lot of cool stuff here in this building. And when we had that Energy Commission meeting last week, and there was a lot of excitement from the Energy Commission. That made me realize, I have a team here that does really awesome stuff. We need to promote that. We need to promote that out on everywhere and say, hey, we do amazing stuff right here that is moving the needle across the board. And we've been so focused on getting to our goal of survival in our business. We've missed sometimes the fact that we've accomplished a lot, and my team here has accomplished a lot. So that's the other thing on my to-do list is promote my team, because I'll tell you what, I do not want to go through another situation of 3 weeks ago of that that personal aspect of not even knowing if anybody is going to be able to have one more paycheck.
Stay with you. Yeah, no, that was an awful situation, but we all hope that you're right on the economic boom. That would be great. We're running out of time here. So Thomas, over to you.
All right. Thank you guys for attending. Make sure that you come to the future ones. Get onto the slides that I shared the link to, and you can find links to all of these. Tomorrow morning, we're going to have the Carlson Center with Brian Hoblet, who's here, VP at CFV Capital Partners, And then next week, we will have Ryan Barr, Tuesday, 9 a.m. with Repurpose Energy. And if you want to hear more about manufacturing in the area, next Friday at 9 a.m., Mike Bell, CEO of Symbio. He's worked with us with programs at Sac State. He's also worked with SVMI, the Sacramento Valley Manufacturers Initiative, and SME, which is another acronym for engineering. And he has some great tips on how do you collaborate with engineering firms if you're not an engineer. Also, we've got our Clean Tech meetup coming back April 30th. It's the Green Tech meetup with AgStart, and it looks like we're going to have Michelle Wong from UC Davis speaking, along with Springboard Biodiesel out of Chico, which has another one of our sister groups of like AgStart called Chico Start. Additionally, we'll have Sierra Energy talking there, and some students from Sac State who are working on their gasifier there and doing testing on it. So if you're interested in any of these, sign up for them. If you want to check out our videos, go to our YouTube channel along with our blogs. We're constantly putting things out. And if you really like what we're doing and you want to throw us a couple dollars here, go and click on Support CleanStart.
Yeah. You've got the
Additional
best.
thanks to EY. Scott is here from it. They're another supporter of ours, along with Stoll Reeves, Hacker Lab, who is where we're actually housed out of. And we still like to support because we want to keep those small groups around, and Moss Adams. So Gary, any final comments?
You won the hat contest for today. I don't know what that is, but it looks like a unicorn.
It's a unicorn onesie that was on the ground next to me.
Oh, okay, a onesie. Okay, well, we won't hold that against you. Thank you, everybody,
There you
for
go.
joining. We look forward to having you at another meeting as Thomas has described them. Thanks so much.